Hey,
Hello, good morning. Hi,
great.
everybody. I'm so glad everyone's joining us here live. I'm Dr. Hillary Fredrickson, and this is Dr. Kara Burkhart, and we are the Cultivate Foundations group or team. Many of you are watching us. If you could be our patient, you could be part of our fertility group or anybody that's done events with us. And we love doing this talk. This is the getting you ready for winter and all that's coming.
And it's already came, really. I mean, so many people with strep, so many people with mycoplasma, pneumonia, so much walking pneumonia around, people with these chronic coughs that are just going on and on and on, people with swollen glands, I mean, headaches, rashes, all kinds of things going on this winter. So we thought we'd go through our favorite remedies right now, which every winter we do this, Hillary, and it does actually change every winter. So you want to start with what is the holdovers from last year, which are just awesome immune support, which is always a probiotic, right? You got to have a probiotic on board if you're doing your immune system. Everybody knows most of your immune system is now lining the gut. Chinese medicine already knew that, which is amazing. You know, observing the human body for thousands of years will sort of tell you this because they have a command point for your abdomen, which is actually an immune boost point and helps with longevity. So working on your immune system is really a common approach in Chinese medicine, and taking a probiotic that boosts that immunity is always a good idea. We chose one for this talk that's a small pill, right, Hill, that you said even children like to take.
I don't know if they like it, but they can. And if your child doesn't swallow yet, getting them to practice, I mean, if age appropriate,
Mhm.
getting them to practice on these probiotic pearls is always a successful way to do it, because they're teeny tiny. The probiotic that we've chosen for your immune support here are enteric coated, which means it kind of they're coated and it lands where it should in the large intestine. But the probiotics make such a big difference for
Mhm.
not only anything that comes in through the GI tract. So if people are getting sick through from getting sick to their stomach, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, that it's very helpful with that, but it's also very helpful for preventing respiratory.
Yeah,
So
and I think that my children had a lot less of the stomach bugs growing up because we
they
always
do.
have them on probiotics in the winter. And I just always want to share that with everyone. And the CDC came out a few years ago saying every adult should be on a probiotic for cold and flu prevention in the winter. So it's really important to be on a probiotic. And I'm always shocked when people aren't on it. Another thing I'm always shocked when people aren't on, and I know you're going to say the same thing, as vitamin D. I was just looking at a stack of labs at my desk here. And everyone is coming back low in vitamin D. You absolutely, in New England, where I live, need to take vitamin D in the winter or you're likely to go deficient. I've been looking at numbers, in the teens today coming back in people's labs. And so we really like the idea of doing a vitamin D in a drop form combined with vitamin K. That's our favorite way. And drops are so easy, right? You just put it in something. I pop it in the smoothies and you don't have to take another pill. I think that's really smart.
And one way to think about vitamin D is you can give it in vitamin D is fat soluble. So you can give it daily, or you can take it daily, or you can take it sort of weekly. And some people will take this is a liquid vitamin D. This one is not in full script because it wasn't available, but a similar product. You can take it for the amount. So what I'll do is if I feel like there's somebody getting sick in my house or my kids or my kid flew back for college, so I gave him a super dose, right? So I gave him sort of 10 times the dose for or 7 times the dose, like a week of his vitamin D before
Mhm.
he got on the plane. So that you can do it that way before you're traveling. We want to be careful with vitamin D. You need to be mindful. You need to think. You need to do math. You don't want to just take like more is not better. But basically, most adults are should be getting at least 2,000. If you're one of our patients and like we've checked your number or you've checked your number with your doctor and you know you're in low 30s or 20s, you could take 5,000 IUs during the winter. But you want to be checking your blood level. We don't want to just get these extreme numbers of vitamin D. So vitamin D, we want to be conscientious of, but Kara said
Yeah.
in Connecticut, they're not absorbing it. In California, we're not absorbing it. So bizarrely, they drew the line in Nashville, Tennessee. And if
Yes.
you're south of Nashville, you're probably getting some vitamin D from the sun. If you're north of Nashville, drawing the line across the country, then you are not. And so, and my patients, even believe it or not, in San Diego, Santa Barbara,
Mhm.
very sun-centered places, their vitamin D is still low. So it is a lab test you can request from your doctor. If not, just do it within the right limit, about 2,000 a day for grown people, $1,000. Did I say $2,000 a day?
No, no,
Okay, do
they're
1,000
international
IUs
units.
a day.
Really
And
confusing.
then 1,000 I use for little people. And like I said, you can kind of, if you feel like something's coming on, and or somebody in your house has a scratchy throat or sickness, assume that it's not allergies. It just, let's go with it's December. If somebody looks like they've got a
Mhm.
scratchy throat, and if somebody says, I just have allergies, they probably have either COVID or the newest virus going around. Okay.
Right,
This is
that's
not
true.
a high allergy season, and you can get a good dose of vitamin D.
Yeah, so remember when we looked really hard at the actual numbers, and the Institute of Health says 2,000 for adults, but the Endocrine Society says 1,500 international units for adults. So we're really good with about 2,000 is what we're generally telling people. And if they're truly deficient, we go up to 5,000 a day, and then we retest. So vitamin D is the only nutrient on our like must-have immune support list because you can't really get it from food. We don't have great food sources for vitamin D. And so it is something we have to supplement. Many people in their genetic tests come back and it says that they can't make it from the sunshine very well either. So vitamin D, I'm always surprised when people aren't taking their vitamin D. So don't be one of those. You got to take it. The thing about, okay, let's go with this. If you're first sick, Hillary, like you feel like, ooh, I have a scratch in the back of my throat. Like, what's the first thing to do?
Okay, so I'm like everybody, if you've watched this since COVID, you're probably annoyed. Because it's like
Here
we're
we go
repeat
again.
offenders, but we say the same things because
Mhm.
Kara and I have to remind ourselves, and we are assuming that we have to remind you as well. So part of it's just getting it out on the cabinet. If you're traveling, you want to be doing this. The very first thing to do for you and everybody in your family is to nasal rinse and to throat gargle or spray.
Mhm.
Critters come in through the nasal passages and they land in the back of your nose here. It attaches to the back of your throat, and the viruses love this tissue. When it's dry, the viruses have a much easier time going. When you're flushing things out and moving things through, it does much better. So there's a couple different ways you could gargle. With COVID, we were watching and doing a lot of Listerine gargling. So you go and you get the creepy looking Listerine, the yellowish one, the oldest one. That basically is just essential oils. And it doesn't have all the like weird sweeteners and food coloring. And the essential oils kill what's in the throat. This is a spray that we have. Kara and I have been using this since med school.
Mhm.
We love it and we're old. We've been using it. We love it so much. It tastes disgusting, but it works brilliantly well. If you think you're getting a sore throat, you got to kind of get it back in there. And
Oh,
three
and it's
sprays here,
harsh.
3 sprays here, you're gargling it. And what I do is I just keep it out and I do it 8 times in a day. Literally every time I look at it, I spray, I spray, I spray. Most sore throats can get treated if you're aggressively working on topical treatment ASAP. Like, and then if somebody in your family, so I have one for everybody in my family. My kids kind of get so triggered and annoyed. Each one has their own little thing. If Kyle comes home and he's got a sore throat, then We're all nasal rinsing, 1, 2, 1, 2, inhaling it. This has got xylitol and it's got grapefruit seed extract. We're going to send a link so you can see all the products. So don't worry about having to write them down. We'll send you a link with all of the products, but this is Xlear nasal spray. It's got xylitol and grapefruit seed extract. It is amazing at making it so your virus doesn't stick, and it helps to kill the critters. So this combo, you can't like, this is just the best topical treatment that there is.
Right.
And if you don't want to use the nasal or the throat spray, then please throat gargle, but you want to be kind of moving that around. And old school throat gargles, salt, and we sometimes put a tiny bit of hydrogen peroxide at my house. You don't swallow it, but it helps to kind of get rid of that. So any kind of, if you don't want to buy the herbs, the throat gargling and the nasal rinsing is your best friend.
It
If you
is, because
travel,
that's
it should be with you on the plane in your carry-on. And if somebody's coughing, I mean, if you're on a plane, half the plane's going to be coughing. It's just what it's like. So you're just nasal rinsing, tissue blow, and you're just making it so you don't get sick. I promise it helps.
And a lot of moms I've been talking to, all the kids are sick, all the people are sick. And then they're getting these things in low degrees, or maybe even completely skipping them because they're doing those nasal sprays, throat sprays, and starting on the supplements right away. So having these things really does make a difference. And for me, I mean, I'm in these small rooms with people. And people are sick, and I'm telling you, if you really follow, having these things on hand, and the second you think, I'm sneezing, or I'm having to clear my throat, or there's something like, I feel like I have a tickle in the back of my throat, that's the viruses irritating the tissues because they started replicating. So this is so important. It's not that we have to get every single thing. We can like make less days of the illnesses, make less symptoms. It's so important if you just have the things on hand. I remember at one point I was driving around, and in my center console where the cups go, I would have the nasal spray. And so I was like getting out of work and like, okay, I just should nasal spray on the way home because I'm driving. So I'll stop at a light or whatever, and I'll remember to just do that because it's there. It's hard to get these things in our lives. So we really, having them out and not up in your cabinet is a really smart plan. And if you have the nasal sprays, really, you do have to label them with a Sharpie, because once someone else uses it, it's not good. It's not, that happens.
Individual nasal sprays in the
Yes.
in the Fullscript link that we created with the products. There's one for kids, and the kids, it might
just
not
a
be their
different dose.
favorite. And with the kids, we also put a eucalyptus essential oil. So one good thing that can be done is steam inhalation. Just talk about it really fast.
So the eucalyptus is an essential oil in a small jar, and all you do is put it in the corner of your shower. So we want the steam of the shower can really open up the sinuses. It can block people from having a sinus infection. So a sinus infection, usually in adults, I mean, in 70–85% of cases in an adult, is a viral infection first, right? And then it turns into a bacterial infection because now you have this wet, moist environment all up in here. It's terrible. And so if it gets swollen and stuck, that moisture can help grow viruses. So that's when the viruses will take the opportunity to grow. And then people sometimes need to go on antibiotics. Sinus infections are horrible, right? And so if you feel like, my face kind of hurts, I'm starting to have a headache, I have a runny nose, I have a little bit of a sore throat, getting a eucalyptus steam in the shower is the easiest way to do it, because you don't need to prep anything. You're taking a shower. People, that's how they do it. People take showers. So if you just put the eucalyptus, like 5 drops in the corner of your shower, so when the water hits and steam rises, it kind of grabs it up and you inhale that. It's amazing at being an antiviral. It's really, really quite effective. And so you can just keep that bottle right in your shower. And when you're in there, you do a few drops in the corner.
One way you could do it if you're not in the shower, if it's hard, and like the shower's a great way with kids. If you can shower with your kid, you can lift them up and hold them. They're getting some of the steam. Another thing you can do, though you need to be really careful about your eyes because these are essential oils are very strong. I learned the hard way. I burned the absolute living hell out of my eyeballs using
I
time
remember that.
medical school when
I
you're like,
remember that.
it's the lesson
That
where
was, you know,
more
22 years ago or 23 years ago.
when you learn more is
Mhm.
not better. Anyway, so a couple drops, it's very strong. You pour hot water, not boiling because that will scald you, but hot water, let it kind of steam a little bit, and then you can just cover with a towel and breathe. You can
Very nice.
open breathe into your throat and into your sinuses. But again, this is a topical treatment with a very strong antimicrobial and antiviral. And so you're getting into the tissue where it really matters and can make a big difference. So
Hey, what if I'm blowing my nose and it comes out yellow?
all the more reason to keep it up. So if you're once you're like yellowish, so this is the thing to remember. Viral infections, upper respiratory infections can normally be 10 days. I mean, it's a long process. It'll start
Mhm.
out clear, it often gets thicker, it can be yellow, and then often it will clear up. If it's moving into headache, tooth pain, fever, like typically if you're getting
Discolor.
fever, on day 7, and that's going the wrong way. You need to call your doctor and let
Yeah,
us.
green mucus,
Not good.
it's
So,
probably a problem at that point.
the one of the other things that if you get fever in the beginning, it's usually more a stronger virus that's causing either influenza or COVID often does a fever and headache in the beginning. And one of the things for flu is elderberry syrup. Elderberry syrup is a great addition to your vitamin D, drinking teas, fluids, all your topical treatments. Elderberry does great with flu. And literally, what you want to do is take it multiple times over the day in the first few days. It can
Mhm.
make a big difference. So, the dosing is on here, but usually an eighth of a teaspoon, a quarter of a teaspoon. You can take it directly, or you can mix it into a little water and drink it as tea. Kids tend to do totally fine with elderberry. It's a food-like herb, but it has very high in vitamin C and bioflavonoids, and the elderberry itself is very helpful at kind of shedding the virus, getting rid of sort of the febrile part of influenza, and it can reduce the amount of days that you have flu for. So like right on it with elderberry. And we put a new product in that you guys, this is sort of uh it's everything compressed into one super little tablet. This is for people who can swallow capsules. And this has zinc, vitamin A, vitamin C, bioflavonoids, echinacea, garlic, quercetin, rosemary, olive leaf, maitake, shiitake mushrooms, cayenne pepper. So it covers a lot of
That's
different
if you're sick, right?
antivirals if
If you're
you're
sick,
sick.
not
Um,
preventative.
and this is, for short-term use, like echinacea, we don't like to have people on long term, but if you're using it short-term, it can really help. So you want to do 3 tablets daily. If you're one of our patients, you can always contact us to see if we would dose it differently for you. But having just these good immune support herbs on hand is really important. We love any of the mushrooms. So there's also in the Fullscript link a mushroom powder. That mushroom powder is excellent to add if you're sick or if you're preventing sickness.
Yep, that one you can do long term, right? Because it boosts your immune response so much. But some of the herbs, Hillary was just talking about echinacea, we don't give to certain people. So you really do have to be cognizant of your own allergies here. Ragweed allergy, typically those people, we do not put them on echinacea. So if you have a ragweed allergy or an aster family, a plant allergy, that's not a great herb for you. It can be really allergic, like you might have an allergic response to it. So it's like anything, you kind of have to really pay attention to your own ingredients, reach out to your own doctor and ask them what would be appropriate for you. And we always say, anyone can react to anything. Elderberry is generally considered really quite
Be
safe.
safe. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Non-reactive.
you just don't know. So pay attention to your own self. Elderberry, the only thing I've ever seen happen with elderberry, honestly, is that people can get loose stool because it's a berry. It's like having like a ton of blueberries at once or a ton of fruit like that. Like you can get loose stool from it and then you just stop and you back it off. But that one is often taken incorrectly. It's really for that first sign of sickness, and you kind of take it often for while you're sick, but it's not an everyday thing. Now, if you're going in and you're going to be exposed to things, you're going in an airplane, you're going into a school, you're going to a concert, you're going to be around a lot of people, then that's an appropriate time to, for a few days, take these immune support and antiviral things we've just talked about. But so the list is long, but these are things like we have in our house. So we just shared with you the things that we keep for immune support for our own families and how we use them for our families. And I'll say that it's really hard once you are sick to catch up. It's like if you don't have it on hand and you don't start right away, the natural medicine works really best when you start it the second you feel like you're sick and you dose it. You're really consistent with dosing and you're really on top of it and you're making sure you're well hydrated and you're making sure you're eating really well and you're getting the rest you need because your body's made to heal from these little sicknesses. Now I'm just seeing that people are just weeks and weeks of these terrible coughs and up all night, and then the next person gets it. And so really try and get on top of it early is my big message, if I could leave you with one thought.
The one thing that we're seeing a lot of that is kind of interesting and surprising are iron deficiencies and zinc deficiencies. So there's these big general nutrient deficiencies for many of our patients. And so it's always a great thing to prevent sickness is to understand your particular lab work. Like, do you have a zinc deficiency? Do you have an iron deficiency? Because if you do, those are going to be really crucial for preventing you from getting sick. It's hard to get sick if you have a great amount of zinc. It's hard to get sick. It's harder to get sick if you're not iron deficient. These deficiencies really weaken the immune system. So we're big fans in Chinese medicine. They always used to say to us, for women, if you're a woman and you're still losing blood, if you're losing blood, you sort of need to consume blood or blood products, red meat. Red meat is a great thing to eat in the winter. If you eat meat like that, you're getting a good amount of zinc, you're getting a good amount of nutrient density. Grass-fed red meat, or doing any kind of bone broth. So this is a great time. There are so many fabulous bone broths, like bone broth's been all in up in it. There's a couple of videos on our Doctors in Demand where we're making it, and we're making a vegetarian one if you're not a meat eater. But having a broth that's very high in nutrient density can make a huge difference. The other thing we say diet-wise, if you get sick, or there's sickness in your house, you just don't want to eat dairy. And believe it or not, bananas, these are very mucolytic. They create a lot of mucus. What you want to do is kind of have thin, cleared out passages. So hanging off dairy, hanging off a lot of banana makes a lot of sense. Some people say citrus, but like somebody like Kara, she knows in her genetic test, she needs a lot more citrus.
I've got it right here.
I don't say add citrus to that list unless citrus makes you congested, but you want to avoid foods that congest you. It sounds so silly, but honestly, that makes a big difference
It
for
does.
catching sicknesses or not. So even traveling, drinking bone broth several days before, being on these immune protocols several days before will make it so that you don't get sick. We've had lots of patients write in over the years that we've been doing this talk that they didn't get sick when they were traveling.
I love
And
that.
the product we have in there, you'll see is just a good old vitamin C. This is Allercy. This is an old school product that we've been using for forever. It's got bioflavonoids. It's got some quercetin in it. Quercetin helps zinc get absorbed. So if you're eating zinc in your diet or taking extra zinc, then the quercetin is helpful. Vitamin C is a really important immune nutrient. This can be taken for prevention and for treating you if you get sick. And then this one actually is great going into allergy season, which is much more February in California, March, April. And it's all changing with the
It's
changing.
all the time now.
But you know, I'd say in general, if like I said it's in the beginning, if you're around people and they're like, "Oh, it's just allergies," assume you're getting exposed to something and
Mhm.
treat yourself early so that you aren't getting sick.
Yeah, because it doesn't feel good to be sick.
No. And the one thing that I do say, it's like if you work with us or a natural medicine doctor and you are getting sick and you're into day 3, day 4, you have a fever, like call us. Sometimes our patients wait until they've been sick for 10 days and they have a major cough. And like Kara said, it's hard. It's much harder to treat that than it
Mhm.
is if you have a history of pneumonia, if you have a history of really getting sick every
Mhm.
time, then work with us individually or work with your natural medicine doctor to get a good plan so that you're not calling on day 10 or 12, which then we're like, much more feeling like we need to prescribe
Mhm.
antibiotics. We want to keep people kind of just clearing things much faster. So thanks for being with us and cheers to a brilliant winter with not very much sickness. Get outside, breathe. Fresh air is always helpful. Move your lungs, exercise, don't eat too much sugar, and have a lot of laughter in your life, and you will not be getting sick very much. So,
All of the above.
being
Bye.
here. Bye, everybody.